I'm Tim Bradner. Thanks for joining us. We're here at Wood Center at the University of Alaska Fairbanks in the second day of Governor Bill Walker's conference on sustainable future for Alaska. And I'm here with Scott Goldsmith, who's also with the university in Anchorage, of course. But Scott is a longtime student and analyst of our Alaska fiscal situation, who's written quite extensively about this. Scott, at this conference, what are you hearing that's different about expenditures, about willingness for budget cuts, new revenues?
I'm hearing that we have a problem that's about $3 billion, and that
$3 billion a year.
$3 billion a year. That's an estimate of the size of our budget deficit. We have four options for filling the budget gap, as it's called. Cut the budget, impose new broad-based taxes, impose more taxes on the petroleum industry, or access and use some of the earnings of the permanent fund. And in order to fill that $3 billion budget gap, you can choose all four of those options because the size of the problem compared to the capability of those four options requires that we really look at all of them. So, for example, much of the talk centers around cutting the budget, or there's some talk of new revenue enhancements, which really means taxation. The potential for those tools may be in the neighborhood of $1 billion. Just talking in very rough terms. But that still leaves $2 billion.
These would be broad-based taxes.
These would be primarily, I think what people are talking about is an income tax. There is some talk about a sales tax as well, but that's what we mean by broad-based tax. The point is that we can't solve this problem just by cutting the budget, or even by cutting the budget and imposing a broad-based tax. We've got a bigger problem moving forward unless there's some miraculous recovery of oil prices and production in the long run. Because the structural problem that we face is that petroleum production, which is the basis for 90% of our general fund revenues, has been declining for 25 years, and it's projected to continue to decline.
But Scott, if we have a $2 billion hole, what can fill that? I mean, if we're already tapping broad-based taxes plus budget, possibly another round of budget cuts without having catastrophic effects on the state economy, where can we get $2 billion a year?
Well, I don't know that we could get $2 billion a year from accessing the earnings of the permanent fund. Say earnings, I don't mean the corpus of the permanent fund, but the earnings. That would go a long way towards filling the remaining $2 billion gap.
Using part of the earnings.
Using part of the earnings, not touching the dividend. Currently, there are two parts of the earnings of the permanent fund that we don't use each year, and that's a portion of the statutory earnings, that is the realized earnings, as well as the unrealized earnings of the fund, which are left in the corpus of the fund until they're realized. But if you look at the total earnings of the fund, particularly from a point of view of the percent of market value approach, which has been discussed for more than 10 years, there's significant earnings that are available to use for any purpose, government purpose, in addition to the dividend. And if we consider the permanent fund as one of our assets, then we really are not poor. Most every other state in the nation would look to us with great envy. And the problem is that we're not considering all of our assets and trying to solve this problem.
But Scott, can we do that without without eliminating the dividend or even capping it? Can we let the dividend continue to rise as it is now? Or should we cap the dividend, do you think?
We could allow the dividend to remain as it is or to increase. If we were to, there are many ways to do it, but certainly the formula for the dividend is in statute, and that formula could be changed in a way to provide more assurance that it would remain in the future and that would continue to grow. As it currently is, as you well know, the size of the dividend fluctuates dramatically from year to year, and there have been times in the past when it's not been clear that we'd be able to pay a dividend. And so, it seems logical that one of the things we want to do, if we feel that the dividend is important, and I guess I feel that it is, that we can make it more stable and more predictable.
Yeah. Well, it's complicated. It's going to take all the tools that we have to solve this problem.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
that's I think one of the things that hopefully will come out of this conference is that realization.
Thank you for being with us, Scott.
My pleasure.
So, thank you. I'm Tim Bradner. Thanks for joining us.